So, do you think in the industry, I mean, do you think people are they afraid of the robots? Do they just not understand that they'll work? Like, I think I have a good opinion on why robots haven't taken off. I've already voiced it on some other podcasts, but to you, I want to see if our ideas are aligned. What do you think is keeping this from just going crazy?
So I see it two ways. There's two things I want to say about this. Okay. First of all, people are afraid of wires. That's number one. So when you talk about consumers, they're afraid of wires. Why? Because ever since we were little, we were taught not to touch the electrical socket. And in school, we aren't trained they don't give us any education on hands-on education with wiring. It's really as simple as that. So that's number one. Number two, the reason it's a challenge has to do with the technology adoption curve. And I want to refer both of you to a book called, and your listeners, to a book called The Innovator's Dilemma. It's, the examples in it, of course, are old time because it's an older book, but it will help you understand, one, what a disruptive technology is, okay? Robot mowers are a disruptive technology. And two, the technology adoption curve. So the way the curve is, it's all explained in the book, but I'll just give a brief overview. When a technology comes out, you have first your inventors. Okay, that's the category of the people who buy it. Those are the people who are willing to put up with all the problems. Okay, it's not quite working right because you're still working out the bugs. And the book is written to manufacturers. So that's why I know about this book, because I worked for manufacturers and I learned about this book at Motorola. So, okay, so you're working out the bugs. These are the people you get. They put up with it, but they're your evangelists also. So they help reach what's the next stage, which is called the early adopters. Okay, I have to say, with robot mowers, we've been through the inventor stage, and we are moving from the inventor stage into the early adopter stage in America. Now, in Europe, it's much farther on. So let's talk about the next stage. So it's like a mid-range stage, and then there's the mass market. That's the hockey stick, okay, is the mass market. And then after the mass market stage, it's the laggards. So those are your ultimate skeptics that are the last ones to get it, okay? But it's kind of goes through those stages. So when you're at the early adopter stage, there's not a lot of volume, but there's a lot of excitement. And that excitement builds. And then eventually it's kind of the curve is almost exactly like the coronavirus, actually, because it starts really small, like it feels like nothing's happening. And all of a sudden, boom, everybody's got coronavirus, right? Same kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and the thing for us is we just have to make sure we're set up for the curve.
Exactly. Because think about what it's going to take when we hit that hockey stick. We need an army of installers.
Yes.
We need an army of support people. We need an army of knowledgeable people. We need so many people with what I call medium skills. So these are people who've gone to trade school, but learned the basics of electronics, the basics of mechanics. It's so important, critical to this industry. Not that hard to learn.
Yeah.
It's basic math. You already know that. It's just which formulas, so.
Yeah. Well, and what's really cool about the industry is, so when we look at the fact that we're over 100,000 pounds of carbon reduction with our robots right now, and to think that this is like not even scratching the surface. Okay. I see so much like political debate about, decreasing carbon, and people don't realize it's ironic that, we call it the green industry because it's, it's plants and it's green, but it's like, it's one of the dirtiest industries that no one talks about because it's like, well, at least they're planting plants that absorb carbon, but we use so much carbon to maintain the green industry.
It's a good point, man. It's a good point.
Yeah.
So if you can decrease that, now you have a bunch of carbon scrubbers, which are the plants, not taking carbon to maintain it. that's a massive impact for people.
Absolutely. Between that and being able to walk out of your house on a weekend and not hear a gas engine, lawnmower,
It's my
leaf
favorite
blower,
thing.
whatever. That is my dream, I tell you. You know, we live in kind of a sparse area. I can't even get away from it there. I mean, what do you have to do? Be on a farm? Just trying to figure it out, you know?
So, Kathy, when we were doing our podcast recording yesterday, the timing could not have been any worse. The neighbor next door was getting their lawn mowed. And
Yeah.
I wished I could have sent like a signal out of I couldn't leave the podcast, but I literally would have paid the landscaper to leave and come back later. And you know, it's crazy to me because all of my neighbors they haven't not bought a robot because they don't see it working at our house. They don't get it because they don't want to fire their landscaper.
Yeah.
This is like super important. Okay. And I'm sure you've experienced this too. You have a robot at your house, it works. Your neighbor comes and is like, I can't believe how good that thing works. I can't believe how quiet it is. I love that robot. Oh, my grandkids come over and they look forward to seeing your robot because they think it's the coolest thing ever. Well, why don't you let me put one in your yard? I don't want to fire the landscaper, you know? And it's like, okay. And it's what makes me so passionate about realizing that the way forward with robotics is not selling direct to a consumer. The way forward with robotics is to get landscapers to realize this is their $80 billion industry to lose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good point.
It's their revenue to keep.
Yep.
The consumer wants to keep it with them. Okay. Right. It's why there's not 2 million robots, and people have to realize too how small Europe is compared to the United States. You know,
that's right.
If there was the adoption in the United States that there is in Europe, what do you think? There'd be 40 million, 20 to 40 million robots right here.
Easily.
The current amount, you know?
Right.
So, so you look at it, and this story in itself tells the story. My own neighbors who love me, who would love a robot, just don't want to fire their landscaper.
Oh, yeah. So, Joe, you got to go talk to that landscaper.
I have.
Yeah? How'd it go?
Apparently not good because they don't have.
I will put it this way. They
work it on them. Come on.
It was because I won't actually name them.
Okay.
If they're listening, they know who they are. Okay?
Yeah.
And it was I saw them actually at the Ford dealership where we buy our own vehicles. Gave them my card. Told them we need to talk about it. And he went, you can do the robots and I'll do what I do. And I said, okay, that's fine. He'll either, like you said, he'll either do it too late after I've already taken those customers. I typically don't try to sell my neighbors. I that's the whole, don't shit where you sleep mentality,
Right.
It's like, I don't want them to walk over and be like, I don't really like how the guys trimmed that bush over. It's like, it's too easy at that point for them,
Yeah.
So I typically don't try to do that. But there might come a point where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of done playing nice. I don't want to hear that lawnmower anymore. I'm going to get them to get one of my robots, even if I have to give it away, and
there you go.
Then they might regret it. We'll see.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I think actually it's critical that landscapers adopt robot mowers to actually stimulate the consumer market, because there's so much business out there. I mean, even now you got so many people who mow their own lawns. There's still going to be, even if the landscapers all band together and really adopt robot mowers, there's still going to be people who buy robot mowers and install them themselves, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, the landscapers might not realize is that they're going to get a piece of that business too, because those people that install it, well, they're not going to have the equipment to find the line breaks.
Yes.
They're not going to have the mentality to problem solve when the robot's having trouble, right? And who's going to help them? Because it's not going to be Lowe's and Home Depot.
I know. Listen, Kathy, this is one of the things that so we do Lowe's Initiative installs. They sell the 115H Husqvarnas, and now they can sell up to the 430s. And a lot of people think it's crazy that we actually even do them, but I do them because I'm the last person they see the installer is the last person they see,
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, there's an opportunity for me to still talk, or for our people to still talk about all the other landscaping work they need, okay? Or to take that person that buys that unit that only does 0.44 acres and they have 3 acres and say, hey, I know you bought this at Lowe's. You didn't know any better. They didn't know any better, but this unit is not going to even start to get going on this. And you have to explain the whole, this is a Bic razor versus a beard trimmer, all the analogies I use. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, they're like, oh, okay, I'll just return it and I'll buy it from you. Okay, great.
Yeah, perfect. I'm sure the manufacturer hates that, and Lowe's hates that.
They do. And listen, I'm okay to speaking to it, because part of this, I want the manufacturers to learn as much from my podcast as the consumers and as much as the business people. And here's what it comes down to. Why am I going to support the people with zero knowledge? Okay, so big box retailer sells it because they're a big box retailer and they have all these marketing funds. But then they don't know how to sell it. They sell the wrong unit. Then we go to do the install, it's wrong. I'm not going to put a bunch of time and energy in getting it to be sold through them. And at the end of the day, the manufacturer should just be happy that robot is mowing for a happy customer. Okay. Right. So really, at the end of the day, the manufacturer shouldn't be upset with me at all. Who should be upset would be Lowe's or Home Depot. But then, listen, take action. You're a big company. Train your people.
Yeah.
If you are unwilling to train your people on robotics, get out of the way.
Exactly.
Get out of the market.
Right. And I'm all for them training the people up, because like I said, we need an army of installers. So pick it one way or the other. Either we'll train them as part of our industry that's separate from the way people shop now, or you'll train them. It's like there's going to be enough business. So I'm not worried about that at all.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
But like I said, I mean, when you think about it, Kathy, the people that buy from Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever are the same people that were never using a landscaper to buy their flowers.
Yeah.
They're never using a landscaper to buy their trees anyways,
Yeah.
Those customers were never going to be our customer in the first place.
Yeah. And then you establish that relationship with them. And now you've got another customer and you've got all that additional business that goes along with it.
Yeah.
And it's win-win for everybody.
Yeah. But that's one of the things that, to elaborate off that's why I tell landscapers when they see that they're getting sold at Lowe's or whatever, I say, hey, listen, don't worry about those people, because the only people you need to worry about are your existing customers and converting them before they go to Lowe's, and then decide they can just do all the landscaping themselves,
Right.
So,
exactly.
All right. So I've got a whole list of more questions here, and we're already an hour in, so a little more than an hour. So I'm going to actually scan. Jules, you got any question that you want to ask?
What was your toughest time in business? Like, out of everything you've done, what is it? What's the toughest thing? What lesson did you learn from it?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. I guess it was in the very, very early days, because I'm the type of person I like to learn by doing. And, I was very fortunate to have my husband and business partner who was kind of like the coach in that aspect in the beginning. And I wasn't really good at listening to him, though. So I did make a few early errors where I'm looking at the money and I'm like, we're out of money. What do I do? And it's like, it was like such a wake up call. And it happened, I think, 2 times. And after that second time, I just vowed to never let it happen again. And that vow was the best thing I ever did. It allowed me to run the business the way I wanted to. We're completely self-financed, and we've bootstrapped this entire way. And I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, you should be. You should be. So is there any new technology on your end coming out that you can talk about or you're excited about? Or is there anything new that you want to talk about, or maybe that's already out that you think people might not know about yet that you want to talk about? Yeah,
I mean, there's things, of course, I know about that I can't say, so I can't talk about those. But
Yeah, and we understand. I have all sorts of stuff like that too.
I guess I could go off on the engineering land and talk about graphene or something like that. Are you guys interested in that? You want to learn about graphene?
What the hell is graphene?
It's actually the same thing that pencil lead is made of, but it's one atom thick, and it goes in a lattice structure. And there's lots of researchers around the world studying it because you know how the computers and the cell phones are getting faster year over year. They're getting cheaper and getting faster. That's not normal. Usually you add features, it gets more expensive.
Uh-huh.
How is it possible that you add features and it gets cheaper? Okay. There's something called Moore's Law that had been true. I haven't kept up with it since I left Motorola, but up till 2008 when I left, it was the technology you can cram into an integrated circuit doubles every 18 months. Okay. So that was true up until then, probably still to some point after. But if you get down to an atom, you can't shrink it anymore. Like you're done. All right.
Yeah.
So back then, I mean, when I was working there, I was like, it always blew my mind that we hadn't reached it then. And here we are 13 years later, and people are saying we're getting really close. Well, graphene is the end game. Okay. And so it's critical that people are studying graphene. And the interesting thing about research is there's always these technology breakthroughs. Okay. And it takes really, really smart people who work really hard on research to figure those out, to get us those things that we take for granted. Okay. And it's unpredictable, takes many, many years. You look at all the scientific discoveries over the years, it was true for a lot of them. Okay. So there is a possibility that a breakthrough may come through on graphene, that they can come up with something that's manufacturable, repeatable, and can be produced in volume, that is also low cost. Those are the criteria. And when that happens, we may be able to continue the trajectory of increasing features and decreasing cost. It's possible. So we can all look forward to that. But if we do hit that limit, everything's going to cost more. And that's the bottom line. So
Yeah. Well, so now see, we learned. I would have never known what graphene. I think I'm a pretty smart dude, and
Yeah,
I've been. You expanded my horizons, Kathy.
all right, cool.
I appreciate that. So let's talk like legacy. What do you want to be remembered for in this industry most?
In this industry, let's see. I didn't put any.
Well, okay, so here, you can just be in life in general.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it should be
But
Yes.
I would say life, but I see you've been in the industry so long already. I would want you, I was going to say industry, and then I was going to expand to life. So you can answer this however you want.
I would say I will answer it with industry. I would like to be remembered as one of the industry founders, one of the people who started the industry in the United States. That's what I'd like to be remembered for. The robotic mowing industry, because it will be an industry.
Yeah, no, it will, and it is. It's happening. So, all right. You have any other advice for Julia working with a guy like me every day in this industry, or just stay on the path she's on? You know.
Yeah, I definitely can come up with some advice. I had a lot of thoughts ahead. I didn't take enough notes though, so let's see if I can resurrect some of my thoughts.
Well, and I do have to say, while you're resurrecting your thought, we had so many questions that we did not even touch on because it just flowed so much. So I think I almost may need to bring you back on again, loop you
That'd
back
be awesome.
down the line.
Right.
Because I think there's all sorts of stuff. So maybe when one of the things that you can't talk about yet come out, we're going to bring you back on. I'm going to tell you that.
Oh, yeah. It could be sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
There is one new thing that is coming out. I guess there's two other things I could talk about. So there's one new thing that's coming out that actually I will have a demonstration unit of shortly. And that is an Ambrosio high cut mower.
All
based
right.
on the 4.0 model. So hopefully I can make an appointment with you to show it to you. That would be
Okay.
exciting.
Yeah.
The second thing actually is a project I'm working on. One of the, if you want to call it a fault, you can. I actually think it's a benefit of Ambrosio is we have a lot of models. I think we're up to like 23 models. It's daunting to people to see so many models. Drives people crazy.
I
And we get that
personally
comment
think it's
a lot.
fault. It is really hard to keep up with.
Yeah. So I agree. And, you know, being in the industry as long as I am or have been, and the fact that Zucchetti, the manufacturer, you know, they were one of the founders as a manufacturer. There were 3 founding manufacturers. One was Zucchetti Centro Sistemi in Italy. Another was Husqvarna. And the third was Friendly Robotics of Israel that got purchased by MTD. So as a founding manufacturer that's been in it for 20 years, I think they see the wisdom in having a something for everyone kind of solution. But I also recognize how daunting it is for consumers, landscapers. It's just, you know, they don't know what to pick. So I'm actually working on a way of an automated way of helping people choose the right Ambrosio model for the situation. So that's a project I got going on the side. I hope I can get that done over the winter at the latest.
Well, with as many mowers as they have, that will be beneficial. That is something you should definitely stay focused on over the winter because it will definitely ramp up your sales.
Be a game changer.
I mean, it is. I mean, even like when I was working with Mariani the other day, and we were looking at stuff, and I'm like so many options. Like just. Well, actually, you probably remember, like, just pick one for me. Just pick one. Let me put it out there, you know? So, you know, because I mean, that's what happens. It's like you almost paralyze them with options.
It's true. And that's the idea I have behind the automation is there's actually a reason for each one. And it's there's benefits of one model over another for certain situations. So it's really helpful for getting the consumer or the landscaper. For each property, you'll have something that solves it. Now, actually, with landscapers, it may not be so important to have just the right mower because it may be more important to settle on 1 or 2 models so that you can have commonality of parts.
Yeah,
so that your team. So that your team knows what to do. And why is it not as important? Because the landscaper has other equipment to finish the job everywhere else.
Yes.
Right? It's not like the consumer where every yard is different. And to be successful with the consumer, you have to have just the right model. You want to optimize for the consumer. That model makes sense for the consumer. But for landscapers, I think it's very appropriate to settle on, you know, just a handful of the Ambrosio models. That's totally the right thing to do.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, any advice then? Or do you have any takeaways? Maybe I'll ask Julia if she has anything that she picked up on this podcast that she really.
Well, I don't know. I mean, to me, I think when we were talking about in which order everything blows up, like what kind of consumers will jump first at it, I think that's important to notice because you're going to have the people that are ready to, or are into technology and want to see the errors and see it evolve. And then you have the people that just want to wait until it's perfect and they don't have to deal with that. So I mean, I think that was a good thing to note.
Yeah, I actually know who they are and it took me 8 years to figure it out. So let's talk offline about that. I'd like to keep it secret because actually it saves a ton on ad dollars to be advertising to the right people rather than to the general public. If you advertise to the general public, you get a bunch of tire kickers calling the phone and that's, you know, it chews up a lot of your time and you're not making sales.
Yeah.
So, but you know, you're selling to landscapers, so it's a little different model. It may not be as important, but if you're selling to consumers, you know, that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I mean, even selling to landscapers, Kathy, I still have the same mentality because I say all the time, if a landscaper doesn't understand their numbers or doesn't know if they're making money or losing money mowing grass, it's going to be a really hard sell to get them into automation. Because I'm going to try to sell them on being more profitable. And the first thing I'm going to have to do is teach them whether or not they already are. So it's kind of the same thing, you know. But yeah, you know. So.
Great.
All right. Well, Kathy, this has been a heck of a time with you. It's
All right.
it's been
Glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, good podcast. I think the customer or the customers, the people listening are going to appreciate and enjoy it. And I think I might have to circle back and have you back on.
That'd be great.
So, awesome.
I'd really love to.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks for coming on.
Yep.
Have a good day, Kathy.
You too.